I'm the boss of the UFC, and I made a huge mistake in 2011 when I ruled out women who are fighting inside the octagon. The UFC Supremo performed a major U-turn just 2 years after one of his most defiant statements. Dana White admits he made a huge mistake when he emphatically ruled out the prospect of women fighting in the UFC. That it may seem crazy given the elite and world-class female combatants in the UFC, but it wasn't that long ago when women weren't competing in mixed martial arts top promotion. In fact, it's only a little over 11 years since the MMA leader staged its first ever fight between females at UFC 157 in February 2013. That fight, of course, was the historic showdown between former long-reigning bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey and Liz Carmouche. The turning point in the history of MMA came a mere 2 years after White said women would never compete inside the octagon. But 13 years removed from that statement, and after a slew of iconic female fights, White admits women needed to enter the promotion. Recalling Rousey's historic fight with Carmouche in TNT Sports' The Rise and Rise of the UFC documentary, he said, "Once we were in that arena, and she walked out. Sold out arena, and the place just erupted when she walked out. I was like, yeah, this needed to be done." 11 years after Rousey vs. Carmouche, the UFC now has 3 weight classes and the pound-for-pound rankings for women. And some of the sport's most beloved fighters, including the likes of John Wiley and Valentina Shevchenko, are women. The impact females entering the UFC has had on the growth of women's MMA to be understated, as well as the global phenomenon she was when she was at the peak of his powers. White and the rest of the UFC brass deserve immense credit for investing the same amount of time, money and respect into women's MMA as they have done with men's. But White self-admittedly believes he was somewhat short-sighted not to recognize how they could elevate the sport and the organization to new heights.